advertised January 7, 2016. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and promptly posted on the municipal public bulletin board and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Informing the public of the time and place according to provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor.
Borough Engineer Donald Borrell, you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We're working on the sidewalk program. There's a lot of cleanup work to be done. Most of the properties have not been properly graded and seeded. The contractor will be back this week to work on that. The DOT projects, obviously, they're still on hold. We haven't heard anything from the DOT yet, and it's getting late this season. I think we're going to end up with a lot of contracts in the state going to next year because we've got 3 months of construction time left and 6 months worth of work throughout the state. So it's going to be delayed, there's no doubt about it. The Center Street project, we had a pre-construction meeting last week. Contractors expected to be in the week of first or second week in September. That's all I have. That project should only take 2 weeks, I think.
Very good. Any questions? Yes. Councilman?
Don, how do they, obviously projects are put on hold and they get backed up. Is there any catch-up plan to work, or just everything gets delayed?
Well, I think, yeah, everything's getting delayed. The problem is that theoretically, we have a contract with somebody that said they have to start work. We're delaying their work. So, I'm just hoping that the state doesn't end up with a bag full of lawsuits over this, because there's a lot of work. Contracts is being delayed. They're laying off people. They're, projects that you were geared up on, you had to go off of. Now you have to come back, so there's going to be extra charges. We're fortunate we didn't do that. But if you had a project started and you have to come back and gear up again, there's going to be charges for that. So there's going to be a lot of extra money on the bigger jobs just for that delay.
Didn't the governor issue an executive order to not go after the TTF funding, but to take it out of the general funding? And that was supposed to jumpstart all this?
We haven't been notified yet. We can start. I don't know whether there's been there's been very little in the newspaper about it since I guess in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, that happened in the last week or so.
Right, Councilman, I read that same article, and it did say emergency, so I don't know if we qualify for
I
that.
don't think we do.
Right.
Bridge work might, brook work, things like that. What it is a
No, the stuff they declared emergencies that was continuing continues, and they're taking it out of general funds, but there hasn't been any more money appropriated.
Thanks, Bob.
Hey, Don, I just have a question for you. I guess, with the sidewalk program going and, with the trees being removed, all of the stuff that's stockpiled over here in this parking lot, there's that big mound of dirt, is that all from the construction as well? Or from the sidewalk?
I don't know whose that is, to tell you the truth. I don't think it's the contractors. That looks like pretty good stuff, but it could come out of Petro for all I know. I mean,
okay.
No one asked me if they could dump there. We didn't authorize anyone to dump there. We did say they could keep their vehicles there, but no one's been authorized to dump there on my behalf.
Okay, but the other stone and stuff that is in there, that's not part of the sidewalk program?
I don't believe it is.
Okay, because I did get a question from a resident asking me whether or not if we were putting stone down underneath the sidewalk, and I know you and I had that conversation. I guess he is or isn't putting it. Right? Is that all dependent upon him?
The stone depends on whether or not you need filled. The ground is very hard to go over. It's we never have any problem with that as far as a structural capacity. If they dig out 4 inches of root and they have to put something back, they have to put stone back.
Okay. All right.
Anyone else? Don, 2 quick things. Any update on 500 Beach Avenue, that corner property? Did some landscaping work?
There's been no problem. They sodded it, and everything was fine. And I've been looking after it. The grass is a little brown, but it's holding.
Okay, very good.
Problem with sod is this time of year you got to water the hell out of it.
And I want to thank you for helping out on Center Street, that water connection problem with the vendor. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on then. Borough Attorney Robert Bernard.
I don't really have anything to discuss unless you have Resolution 16258, which is this fence agreement. I don't know whether anybody has any questions on it. I prepared it in accordance with what my understanding of what the direction was. ready to go if you want to vote for it.
Any questions? Mr.
I
Renata?
didn't hear which number that was, I'm sorry.
16,258.
And that's going to be taken off the consent agenda, right?
I have no
Yes.
idea.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Renata?
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you.
We're having a discussion later, as you know, partly open, partly closed, affordable housing.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Ariano? Any unfinished business for the council this evening? Any new business? I have a little bit of each, as I usually do. As discussed at the last council meeting, at this time I'm reinstating the parking committee with the following members: Chairman, Councilman Joe Sarno, Council President Lou Petroselli, and Councilman Martin. Also, I am adding 2 advisory members to that committee, Police Chief Bruce Underhill and former Councilwoman Kathy Bellagio. Ms. Ariane, would you please put the parking committee back on the agenda for the first week in October? We'll be able to receive our first update from the committee. I'm asking the parking committee to review all the 4th Avenue, 5th Avenue, Oak Street, and Cedar Street as a starting point for their investigation. This matter comes before me, I'll pass them on to the committee. The mayor and council are being invited to the grand reopening of Spring Academy located on Center Street on Saturday, September the 10th at 12 noon. Also, the mayor and council are being invited to attend the grand opening of South Avenue Arts Facility, formerly the DFW building on South Avenue, on Saturday, September 24th at 12 noon. That's all I have. Okay, we'll move on. Comments or matters for discussion from the mayor, from the council members. Councilwoman Cooperall.
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Martin.
Nothing, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Matthew.
Yeah, one thing, Mayor. Just want to follow up on something Mr. Patterson brought up at the last meeting. Just got me thinking. We're having our vote on the redevelopment ordinance September 13th at the school.
That's correct.
All right, and then what I'm thinking of, is there a way that we could vote on that matter at the following meeting on the 27th? Here's my thinking on that. I'm worried about the optics. You know, I guess we're all anticipating this sort of one. School, it's going to be a lot of people there voicing their opinions on this very important issue. And then, after they're done speaking, the council then goes ahead and immediately votes. And if I could just mention that to you, I still get feedback today about when you voted to fire Fred, that we had
Mr.
that
Councilman,
meeting.
let's not start.
I'm not,
Okay, I
listen,
appreciate
Mayor,
that.
I'm not
No,
done
you're
speaking.
bringing up the topic, it's an old
Listen.
topic, it's over a
No,
year. We haven't
Mayor.
heard anything about it.
Go right ahead. No, then you're not
Okay.
talking to the people. The thing that I hear from people constantly is that people came in here, we had a packed house, they spoke their mind on it, and then you and others read from prepared text as if no one said a word. And what I'm trying to do is to avoid having that again, to give us another 2 weeks for reflection, to think about the things that are brought up at the meeting, and to also invite more participation from the people. So I'm just asking on behalf of Garwood residents that you give us another 14 days to go ahead and have that vote on the 27th.
My opinion, I think we've heard this for months and months and months. We pushed it out now to September at the request of the council. In my opinion, I think it should stay where it is and let the vote be taken. Does anyone in the council have any input?
I actually do. Mr. Rolla said that we didn't have to vote on that night. Like I said, I would agree with Councilman Matthew that if, for no other reason than just to be able to have everybody there digest everything. And I think it's putting your best foot forward, allowing the residents, obviously, just to have their say, and then sit back and then vote on it next time. Mr. Renaud didn't see any issue with it. I don't think it's not delaying it for any specific reason. It's not political, it doesn't matter about the party, and I don't see any reason why that can't be accomplished. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Mayor, but I just don't see a reason why it couldn't be, just to allow everybody just to be able to get their head, you know, their hands around what's going on, that's all.
Yeah, and we don't even know what the makeup of the crowd's going to be, if there's going to be a groundswell for, against, or a little bit of both. So to make that decision beforehand, I think would even make it look less like we're prejudging it. And whatever side may carry the day with the crowd, just say, hey, listen, your representatives are actually gonna take some time to think about what you said. The optics are really more, Mayor, what I'm concerned about, and it's really a format matter. I think for that 2 weeks, to go ahead and allay people's concerns, I think it would be worth it.
Mayor and
Yes.
Mr. Nod, maybe you could answer this. Sure. This decision really can be made on September 13th as well. If there's a motion to, what's the word? Not postpone, but a motion to table, right, thank you. A motion to table. And if we are to make a motion to table and put it on to the next meeting, that doesn't require notification. So realistically, it could be voted on at the next meeting. Later in September, it could be voted on in October, November. The public really, the process can get away from itself there. But I guess my bottom line question is, if we want to table, or if the council has interest in tabling it, that would be something that would be dealt with on September 13th. Maybe, we see which way the winds blow then. Also, I know that it's being said that it's not political, but I hate to do this, I really do. But I have a stack of things from the Garwood Republican Party Facebook, and maybe you're open to changing your mind, but, calling it the overdevelopment plan and a host of other negative attributes, I think is prejudging it. It's been done for months, and I don't want it to be political, but maybe, personally, I wouldn't put out an opinion and then say I need more time for reflection. I would just be reflecting the entire time for months and holding to judge the decision.
I think you had a good point. That was the point I was trying to make, Mr. Renard. But the other question, it might be a very small one, but do we then reschedule for the school again? Or do we just bring it back to the council?
Bring it back to that, and maybe I apologize if I weren't clear
I
about
just
it.
wanted to get.
I would think that, we go ahead, we have the public hearing, and that's the purpose of having it there. Anyone's free to come at the 27th. I would not be in favor of delaying it past the 27th. But again, it's the optics of it. I don't think anyone's I'm not accusing anyone up here of doing anything that's surreptitious, but just think of the optics that you have a room full of people voicing their opinions, giving their input, much of it, which may be actually pretty good, and then, boom, we go ahead and vote on it right there. I would just think the average, and I've gotten this feedback from residents, they do not feel like their representatives listen to them. And I really think that this would go ahead and allay that concern.
I think Councilwoman brings up a good point. I think it should be, my opinion, I think it should be on the agenda. If we want to table it, then we'll table it that night. If we don't get positive or negative feedback either way.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll do the day. I wanted to surface it before.
Okay, fine. Anything else, Council?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Councilman Sarno?
No, that's a great point. I definitely agree with listening to the residents and then digesting it and making a speech afterward. And if you want to know my thoughts and opinions on things, I have my own Facebook page. Look there. You don't have to lump me in, all right? I invite you to like it.
I don't have a Facebook, so I can't like it.
Don't tell anyone else.
Councilman.
On my behalf, please, okay? Thank you so
You just
much.
did, so.
Okay, that's all.
Councilwoman Tedesco?
Just one quick item there. I just wanted to publicly thank Ms. Ariano for getting out the notices to the residents affected by the hold on the DOT project. Spoke to a couple of residents on 3rd Avenue, and although not happy with the news, they were happy to receive notification from the town and some clarification as to why, since especially that one block of 3rd has been going through a lot with drainage and things over the years. So, Ms. Ariano, thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Council President Petrozelli?
I don't have anything, Mayor.
Okay, then.
You have a Facebook, so maybe I'll check.
Sorry to say, Joe, I don't have one. I apologize. Okay, hearing nothing else, we'll continue on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes this evening. Thank you. Sir?
Do I have to go out there?
Yes.
I really was prepared. Good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Bruce Patterson, 325 Blue Avenue. about that pile of dirt, which is true, I've driven by it. I mean, I wasn't gonna say anything, but now I hear from our borough engineer that it's not authorized. Is this an issue?
He didn't say that.
I said I didn't authorize.
You did.
I already have it on my list to find out whose dirt it is and get it
And
handled
we're gonna
on it.
get
On
dirt.
my list already.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying to get rid of it. I mean,
I didn't say
I'm a
rid of it.
construction guy. I mean, that tells me
Find
it's
out whose
construction.
dirt is in Casale lot, see?
Thank you very much.
My notes.
Sir?
There you go.
Keith Locke, 609 East Street. There was a discussion a few minutes ago, which I'm afraid I didn't catch what was said. Has that issue as to the fence been resolved, or is it still a resolution to be addressed?
Currently on tonight's agenda for a vote.
Oh, for later?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much.
Take a
I
copy of the
didn't
agenda.
intend to make an
No,
impromptu
no,
speech.
that's fine.
Well done. Thank you.
Sometimes we don't have all the answers, but
Just a copy of
sometimes
the
we
agenda,
do.
sir.
We have it.
Yeah, I have it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I apologize for my address tonight. I just barely made it. So, Bill Nearstead, 320 Hickory Avenue. I don't know. I guess you know I'm going to talk about the redevelopment and the word optics. Councilman, I have a different set of optics on it, and the optics that I have is this has been going on for 3 years. 3 years. I was 21 when this started. I don't know how much time you need to make a decision, but you've been on planning board for 8 months. You've had the redevelopment plan. You've had your needs study. You're saying it isn't politics. I'm sorry, delaying it. We've had 2 public hearings with a lot of people attending. I'm sure you noticed that there were far fewer people there the second time. I think you recognize that the tide is turning, and people recognize that Petra Casale properties are not in their present form the future of the borough, nor are they the future character of the borough that we want to retain. So I do want my representatives to represent that, and I want you to vote on this matter on 13th, is that correct?
That's correct,
On
sir.
13th, and advance it.
It's not Friday.
Contrary to what has been said, I think the majority of residents in this town support this project. And I ask you to please vote on it on the 13th and move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? So.
Is she here yet? Jill.
It's,
All right.
We weren't gonna do this in workshop, but we're gonna have her at the end of the regular meeting.
I thought she was gonna make a public presentation as well.
Yes, at the
Yeah.
end of the regular
Okay.
meeting.
I thought it was not to. We could do the regular meeting, right?
yeah, oh yeah, we'll go right in.
I need the motion.
Who made the motion, please?
I made it.
Mike?
Once you guys finish this meeting, I don't think there's time.
All,
Yeah, I know, right?
all in favor?
Aye.
I know.
Okay, we'll proceed on to the regular meeting. Everyone please rise for a motion. A movement. Good night, sir. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader Union County local source, advertised on January 7, 2016. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and promptly posted on the municipal public bulletin board and filed in the office of the municipal clerk, informing the public in time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231 PL 1975. Everyone please silence your cell phones or any devices. Appreciate it. Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Mayor Lombardo.
Here.
Councilman Kukrow.
Here.
Councilman Martin.
Present.
Councilman Matthews.
Here.
Councilman Zarno.
Here.
Councilman Tedesco.
Here.
And Council President Petrozelli.
Here.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Regular workshop and executive minutes of the mayor and council held on August 9th, 2016.
Do I have a motion to accept?
So.
Thank you.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, move on to communications, Ms. Ariano.
New Jersey State League of Municipalities Mayor's Advisory.
Receive and file.
County of Union Board of Children Freeholders invitation to celebrate POW/MIA Remembrance Day.
Receive and file.
Bruce Patterson Casale Redevelopment Plan.
Receive and file.
Township of Westfield Ordinance.
Receive and file.
Township of Brantford Ordinance.
Receive and file. We have no ordinances this evening. We'll move on to council standing committee reports and other reports. Police, Councilman Sino.
Thank you, Mayor. On Monday, July 18th, 3 local juveniles were walking to Mohegan Park in Cranford when they found $200 cash with a deposit slip with the same amount attached. The juveniles took possession of the money and without delay dropped it off to the Carver Police Station, reporting where they had located the money. The money was returned to Ms. Virginia L. Doherty, who was elated and impressed with the good citizenship, honesty, and integrity of these Garwood juveniles. Chief Underhill reports that all 3 juveniles have participated and graduated from both the DARE and GRADE programs, taught at Lincoln School by Lieutenant Sam Rocco and Officer Scott Erickson. Both Lieutenant Rocco and Officer Erickson are proud and honored to see the fruits of their instruction come to bear in such a forthright manner. Chief Underhill would like to request the Mayor and Council to formally recognize Daniel A. Majeski, 12 years old, Michael J. DeLeese, and Pentelio DeSantis, 11 and 12 respectively, for their actions. They have all displayed the highest discipline, integrity, and honesty by making the right decision at this critical point in their journey in life. On August 2nd, the Garwood Police Department participated in National Night Out by the county at Mizell Field in Springfield. The chief and members of the department were on hand with the department's Humvees and a MARC unit. They demonstrated various equipment used regularly by patrol. The kids loved trying to perform simple tasks while wearing the DWI simulation goggles, and the adults enjoyed the interaction as well. National Night Out is sponsored by the National Association of Town Watch and is in its 33rd year. It is a locally organized campaign through which millions of Americans gather the first Tuesday of each August for outdoor activities and to interact with their law enforcement and other public safety departments. With today's climate of questioning police activities, this year's event could not have come at a better time. This was a great opportunity for the public to meet with first responders on an informal basis to strengthen existing relationships with the public we serve. On August 3rd, members of the police department's bicycle squad conducted a bicycle rodeo at the athletics field complex, with the children participating in the summer recreation program. Participants had their bicycles inspected to ensure that they were in proper and safe working condition. They were also instructed in bicycle safety, including the rules of the road. Each participant completed a road course and demonstrated proper hand signals and safe control of the vehicle. The Garwood Police would like to thank all the residents who came to visit us throughout the month of August. Unbeknownst to the department, a local Facebook campaign was launched by resident Kathleen Patterson and her grassroots group entitled Good Deeds by the Heart of Woman. She promoted a Police Appreciation Week, which due to local enthusiasm ended up being extended to the entire month. It was designed to show community support for local law enforcement in an age when national sentiment for law enforcement is not all that positive. Many visitors brought food and or baked goods along with handmade cards of appreciation. Chief Underhill stresses that these are indeed tumultuous times, full of misconceptions regarding law enforcement's stated mission on how it is being carried out nationally. It is about building and maintaining relationships within our communities. Law enforcement must win and keep the confidence of those we serve. And in Garwood, we strive to do this every day. The support this community has shown for not only the Garwood Police Department, but for all Garwood's public safety departments is overwhelming. We want all residents to know how grateful we are for your support and that we're here for you 24/7, 365. We are proud to wear the uniform and serve the residents of Garland. That's from Chief Hunter.
Thank you.
Carrying on. Good morning. Just going to take a breath here.
He's taking my spot this week.
Still all good.
We had a police committee meeting. Lou Petrozelli and I of the police committee met Thursday, August 18th, with Chief Underhill and Captain Stoker and discussed updating the borough's ordinance concerning special law enforcement officers so we can hire these officers as part-time hourly employees. These officers, if hired, would assist with the parking enforcement in response to the sweeping overhauls made last year and for what may come in the future. They would assist us with court security, street fairs, parades, traffic control, among other tasks. We recommend updating Chapter 34-3 with the Chief's recommendation so that we can pave the way for hiring special law enforcement officers in the future. Furthermore, we recommend the use of per diem dispatchers to fill in when a squad is short and overtime is needed to replace a dispatcher. There have been many times where other dispatchers are not available to fill a shift, and an officer is called in to fill that role at a higher rate. It makes sense to us to employ this method, much like our alternate school crossing guards, and to have dispatchers available to work when needed at a fixed rate without benefits. If you have any questions and/or concerns, please let me know. That is all for my reports.
Thank you, Councilor. First of all, I'd like to say that, yes, I'd be more than happy to have those three young men at the next meeting, present them with the mayor's certificate, and we'll take it from that point. Anyone else, any comments on the police report?
Just a question. So will the ordinance change be something that we could see the next meeting, next couple meetings? When do you foresee that being on the agenda?
That's a good question. Do we want to put it on the agenda for the next meeting? I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I think I could leave with it. Mayor, I don't know how you would like to see that, or...
I just have a couple of questions on that, if I could. It's interesting, Tony Morales and I actually ran into a resident who said we should bring back special police officers just this weekend. And he actually was a special police officer in Garwood a number of years ago. So at least one resident shares that concern. Is that, Joe, is that going to be in lieu of other officers or in addition to the force of 16?
It's going to be in addition to other in the force.
Okay, so it would be in addition to.
Right.
Okay. And then as far as a per diem dispatcher, I'm imagining, would that be dispatchers from other boroughs or from the county who would come in? I mean, you have to have some qualification on that.
Right, you're going to have, you have to have a set qualifications, and yes, we'll have a bunch of resumes, we'll put it out that way, and you'll be on call, so to speak. But you need to have qualifications, and I guess you would want to live nearby, right, for something like that. So that's going to be the case. And the thought process with the special law enforcement officers is with the enforcement and with the what kind of revenue they can bring in, this would be like no cost. And in fact, I think it would even take away from the cost going on right now. If we have it like overtime or things like that, these special officers can fill in at a much lower rate, and I think it would be a benefit to the borough to bring these people on.
I actually do have a couple follow-up questions too.
Okay.
Just wearing the finance hat. So I would certainly be okay with having an ordinance on the agenda so that we can establish the ability to do so. But since it would be in addition to the current force, I think that would become a budget issue next year.
It would. I would agree.
And also having per diem dispatchers, I don't know if then we would have to make a new line in our salary ordinance for them. Ms. Ariema, do you know? Would we probably have to do that? So then, usually we do the salary ordinance every year if needed, and so I could see those things getting done next year. But I wouldn't be opposed to taking care of the ordinance now, just putting those other things on the radar, the budget and the salary ordinance. But also, I know in your report you mentioned that you and Councilman Petrozelli were there, but I know Councilman Martin's on that committee too. Did he give sentiments on this?
Yes, he did. I forwarded him minutes of the meeting that I created, so they're in his possession. If you have any questions, Mike, you know to reach out to me.
Okay.
So, Councilman Martin, at this point, do you agree with the other two committee members that we should move forward on putting the ordinance on?
I do. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I think the question will be before that. Mr. Ron, can you prepare something for the next meeting?
Well,
I think that's
no is
possible.
the answer, because I'm on
Okay.
vacation next week.
Well, I'm being honest, that's why, we can have that the next meeting.
But putting that aside,
27th, I
yeah,
believe. is the date.
putting that aside, there are legal issues that need to be
How about contractual?
explored in connection with both of those suggestions. We actually put in the contract years ago, and I assume it's still in there, I haven't negotiated one of these contracts in a while, but we actually put in a couple of years ago that special officers could be used, but special officers can only be used for certain, in other words, you can't hire a special officer and then if a regular officer calls out sick, have that special officer doing that. They're not allowed to do the job of a regular police officer. So you really need to look, I think, at whether hiring special officers is actually going to save you any money or not. I know, I'm not saying that because it didn't, and I didn't do this investigation, but when it was looked at, I'm going to say 10 or 15 years ago, the conclusion was that there weren't any functions for those special officers to do. And then it's also, they have to have the same training as regular police officers if they're going to carry weapons. And it's hard to find people who are available to do that. Depending upon what class of special officer. So I'm not saying it's not doable, but it's not, I'm not sure they can just jump into it. So I'll take a look at it and decide whether I should do it or if we should use our personnel council for that issue. And the same issue with per diem dispatchers is not a problem. I'm not sure what we're calling per diem. By per diem, I assume that we just mean somebody we're paying hourly, because you can't pay them a flat fee because they'd be employees. So they're, they're going to be basically hourly workers, I would call it part-time dispatchers. That's the easier part of it, I believe. So why don't we target the 27th, but I don't want to make that promise.
Well, as they say, we're leaving your capable hands.
Thank you.
And one other thing too, I mean, I guess you, Bob, I guess you would be speaking to the chief on this too. I mean, I don't want the chief to really go into too much detail right now.
Right.
But, he went into a lot of detail when we did meet, so I guess you would be talking with him in order.
Yeah, I'd like to, I don't know if there was any written material, I'd like to see that, but if not, you'll have to talk.
Okay.
And I just want to say, I'm in favor of both ideas and concept, subject to the issues that Mr. Bernard's bringing up. Like, just a special officer, I'm not really familiar with the concept, like these people who can make arrests, and as Mr. Bernard said, carry weapons. We may target them for a certain function, like say ticketing vehicles. What if they witness a crime or something like that? What is it? I would just want to know kind of how they stack up against a regular uniformed officer of the Dartmouth PD. That's really all.
That's all broken out. Special law enforcement, class 1, class 2, they each all have special rights according to the state of New Jersey, if my memory serves me correctly from the meeting. And those are outlined. I know Bob's at least familiar with that, and I know we'll go over it in detail before it comes out. That way everyone on the dais really has a good idea of what could be coming down here in terms of who can be hired and what their rights will be as an officer and what they can do.
Okay, thank you.
You guys have a question? You're good?
Yeah, I was going to say, ultimately, no crazy rush since the budget and then salary ordinance for that.
Well, we have to put an order.
Yeah, I think
Right.
the ordinance is the first piece, and then
Right.
the per diem dispatch
And
is probably
Mr.
the
Ron.
more simpler piece too. That should help.
As I mentioned, and Mr. Bernard also mentioned that I think the contract has something to do with the whole process. The contract which completes the PBA. That's my opinion. Okay, well, if no one has anything else, we'll move on to Public Health. Councilwoman Cooper.
No report this mayor. Our meeting is next month in September, so
Yeah.
report back then.
Streets and Roads Ecology, Council President Petrozelli.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Fire, Councilwoman Kukrow.
No report, mayor.
Finance, Councilwoman Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor. The Finance Committee met last week to begin discussing the 3 proposals we received from law firms specializing in redevelopment, as you assigned a task to us, Mayor, of coming up with a recommendation for the council. So we all agreed it would be best to interview them in person and look forward to meeting with them next week. And we anticipate having a recommendation for the council, which we will share in the Friday council packet before our next meeting.
Very good.
And that's all for my report.
Thank you. Any comments on the finance report? Seeing none, buildings and grounds, Councilman Matthew.
No report, Mayor.
Laws and license, Councilman Martin.
No report, Mayor.
Recreation, Councilman Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. The 2016 Summer Rec Program was the best yet. Ran for 6 weeks at a cost of $50 per child or $10 per week for those who wish to pay weekly. More children signed up this year than ever before, with a total of 162. The average attendance was about 100 kids per day. The program ran several trips, including trips to the Turtleback Zoo and Somerset Patriots game. The summer ran smoothly under the direction of Dana Parkhill and her seasoned staff, making the season without injury or incident. On August 14th, the Commission held its annual senior dinner at the Knights of Columbus Hall. This year, brunch was served and live music was enjoyed. Bingo was a hit with prizes donated by the Commission. Fun was had by all. The Commission continues to build and grow relationships with groups seeking to rent the Garwood Sports and Rec Complex. Some of the valued repeated renters, including Lincoln School Middle Sports, Westfield Soccer, B Elite, and Garwood Soccer are some of the few. The field has also been used for some of the Commission's own programs, including Garwood Instructional Soccer. As always, ample time is set aside for public use. Soccer training for Garwood's youth will begin shortly after a 6-week program with 2 sessions from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7 on Fridays at a cost of $25 per child. A free Garwood instructional field hockey clinic will take place for the first time this year on August 29th and 31st. October and November, crafts are being planned and scheduled. As in the past, children will be free and adults will pay a nominal fee. That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments on the recreation report? Seeing none, we'll move on. The Garwood Senior Citizens Liaison.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a formal report this week, but I just wanted to let the folks know, as there are a few members of our group out here, that Megan from Board of Health did agree to sit down and talk to me. They wouldn't be adverse to having blood pressure screenings twice a month. So I did bring it to her. She was very positive about it. So we will discuss it next month at the Board of Health meeting. And I just figured I would let everybody know. That's all for my report.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Any discussion? Hearing none, libraries, Mayor, Representative, Council President Petroselli.
Thank you, Mayor. The freeholders presented the grants for children's programming to Union County Libraries on August 18th at the freeholder meeting in Elizabeth. The Garwood Public Library was awarded $7,500. The library will use these funds as follows: $3,725 to purchase and set up 3 public computers, $1,500 for Tutor.com. Tutor.com is an online service that offers one-on-one tutoring in 25 subjects for grades 4 through 12. It also offers essay review, resume, and cover letter help, SAT, ACT, GED, and citizenship test preparation. It can be accessed remotely on phones, tablets, and home computers by all Garwood Library cardholders. Number 3, $2,275 for children's programming, including Mad Science Physics Olympics Assembly, You Are Who You Eat reptile show, Brixology, a 7-week after-school STEM engineering program, and Schoolhouse Chess, a 7-week preschool program. The library is grateful to the freeholders for making these programs possible. We were informed at the freeholder meeting that the funds provided to the library came from county golf fees, so the library would like to encourage everyone to play around with golf on the county course. In other news, the library held 2 computer classes this week using new laptops donated by Alante Alliance. The seniors met every morning for a class on computer basics that covered how to turn on the computer, internet searches, email, and Word. Each afternoon, kids learned the basics of coding. Both programs were very successful, and the library plans on holding more of these programs. And personally, I'd like to congratulate the Garwood Library on receiving the $7,500 grant from the Union County Board of Chosen Freeholders for the purpose of the programming. I'm pleased to announce that the library, we received the full amount, and it's not a matching grant. So it's
I was gonna ask.
that's all from my report.
Thank you, Council President, I appreciate that, the final note. Any comments on the library report?
If that wasn't matching grants, thank you very much.
Second that.
So it's called the Bruce Patterson effect.
Yes, we like it.
I will continue on, School Board Liaison, Councilman Sarno.
Thank you, Mayor. The board met Tuesday, August 17th at Lincoln School, where it was the last meeting of the summer before the start of the school year, which will begin Tuesday, September 6th. A grab-and-go breakfast will be served beginning on Thursday, October 6th, as the Garwood School District has hit the prerequisite number of students receiving a free or reduced lunch, and therefore breakfast must be offered to all students. Those students receiving a free or reduced lunch will be offered a full breakfast, while all students will have the opportunity for the grab-and-go. In case anyone's wondering, New Jersey schools are required to serve breakfast. New Jersey schools required to serve breakfast are those with 20% or more students eligible for free or reduced price meals under the federally funded National School Lunch Program. Physical improvements have been made to the school, including the painting of walls and the updating of clocks, so that Lincoln School is ready for the 2016-2017 school years. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the summer. And that is all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Any comments on the school board report? Seeing none, Celebration of Public Events and Holidays Liaison, Councilman Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor. The annual movie Under the Stars is just around the corner. This year it will take place on Friday, September 9th at dusk, with a rain date of the following day, September 10th, at the Garwood Sports and Recreation Complex. Feel free to bring lawn chairs and blankets to watch the movie from the turf field. The movie will be Minions. And thank you to Spencer Savings Bank, the Greater Westfield Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Borough for sponsoring the event. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments on celebrations report? Seeing none, Union County Air Traffic Noise Advisory Representative, Councilman Matthew.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Administrative Review Committee.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Historical Committee, Councilman Tedesco.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Moving on, the officers' reports, Ms. Ariano.
Chief of Police Bruce Underhill report for the month of July 2016, Board Administrator Sean Duran report for the month of July 2016.
Do I have a motion to accept the officers' reports?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Phil Nearest, 320 Hickory. Two interesting things came out during the discussion there. Just like to throw my 2 cents worth. Councilwoman Tedesco mentioned that the council is going to be looking at reviewing the redevelopment attorney. Just a few thoughts. I'm sure you have most of these in your head already, but just a few thoughts I jotted down. They're not cheap, okay? So, but when you look at what they charge per hour, it isn't necessarily, the highest one that's the best, but I just really encourage you, even though the developer is going to be paying for that, we're supposed to be partners with the developer moving forward. So the objective isn't to hire the most expensive, you stick it to the developer, get the best one. Second, in terms of questions asked them, the Westfield Leader recently said that the attorney was going to be the negotiator for the borough. Totally inaccurate, as with many things that they say. But the board attorney, the redevelopment attorney is not a negotiator. You should be asking the redevelopment attorney, how many redevelopment plans or agreements have they prepared? How many redevelopment plans and agreements that they've been working on have actually been realized? Because a lot of these plans and agreements don't end up actually happening. I think it's important to see how many have actually worked out. Try to find out the scale of the plans and agreements. you might have had 20 agreements, but if they're all, 20 units, they don't perhaps have that experience that you need. Find out how many have actually been taken to court, if any, and then what their track record is in court. I think the most important advisor that's going to be hired is actually your financial one. The financial one is going to provide the information that's necessary for the borough to make, for the council, to make some recommendations moving forward. And so I just throw out those questions, if you can ask the redevelopment attorney when you interview them. I think that would help protect the borough tremendously. The other thing is something very interesting, Joe, that Councilman Sarno mentioned, had to do with the free lunches at the school. I think you could take that a little further in terms of the borough residents. There's people who are supposedly, distressed about low and moderate income housing within the proposed development on South Avenue. I think what you just learned from Councilman Sarno is that there are a number of Garwood residents that would actually satisfy that low and moderate income level because they're obtaining a free lunch. And so while Councilman Matthew talks about working for the residents of the borough, I think it's important to recognize that a lot of the residents of the borough don't necessarily make the income that we perhaps think they do. Or, when you have a per capita income, you have a median, they're just as many below it as above. And we just learned that a lot of our residents living in the borough today would qualify for that housing at the South Avenue development. So I just want you to remember that as you move forward. It would assist current borough residents.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You have to stand up. Mr. Patterson, how many years have you been coming to these council meetings? Just curious.
Should I go to the microphone?
Please? I was trying to give you a good lead-in.
Good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Bruce Patterson, 325 Little Avenue. And you asked a question, probably 1998.
Thank you.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
That was the first time, like, my taxes took a jump. And I said, holy cow. I said, somebody's got to find out what's going on. And like I tell people, it's quicksand. You start paying attention, you get sucked into this quicksand, and you end up yelling at the Board of Ed and the mayor and the council and freeholders.
Now that I derailed your conversation.
Oh, yes.
Go right ahead.
But anyway, it is quicksand, so for those who say, I'm going to come to the next meeting, that's the start of it. So anyway, the special officer, if you would like to go to Fanwood, they have a special officer over there. Jack, his name is. Maybe who's under the I forget his last name. I know him well for many years, and and he does show up at various events. So I mean, Fanwood obviously has something in place that we probably could copy as a model ordinance. I think he said one time he's the only special officer in the county. I'm not positive. Nice guy. Also, I have a letter that I sent. Hopefully, it will be addressed because I had various questions. Knowledge for public consumption, and probably everybody else, the professionals and everybody who's here, would probably like to know the answers. And a resident came up and started talking about the redevelopment plan in reference to Mr. Matthew, talking about the redevelopment plan. And the planning board did have 2 public meetings, as was noted, but unfortunately, the takeaway from that was more or less it was just the informational type meetings. I mean, yes, residents were allowed to speak, God bless America, but I mean, the question is, and there's planning board members here, okay, so we had 2 meetings, 175 showed at the first, I think there was 150 at the second, and what exactly changed after that? What did anything that the people were saying achieve? So, I mean, those weren't really public informational meetings. I mean, they were public meetings that hopefully somebody was listening. It was just more informational. And to tell you the truth, the planning board didn't have to listen to the public because our zoning ordinances were suspended because it's a redevelopment plan, and therefore they did not have to take into account our borough, our character. You know, yes, they addressed COA, which is proper, and they addressed the eyesore, which needs to be removed, as everyone, I think except one person. I think there's one person that said he'd like to still see it, but yes, you know, there's a couple of positives. You know, I try to be objective in looking at all this, and yes, there's even additional parking that is being built over there. So, I mean, you know, there's pluses to the plan. I'm more or less on the negative side, that maybe something, it's kind of a little too big. That's why I sent in these questions. But, you know, the resident also stated the majority wants it, and he doesn't know that. I read a letter from the Republican candidates going around campaigning. They wrote a letter saying, you know, a lot of people don't want it. But, you know, so we get both sides. Of course, our posturing, and is there politics involved? I'm not positive about that. But we're talking about, the good thing is the candidates. Yeah, the candidates are knocking on the door. So maybe they know better. And I heard from the Republican candidates. I didn't hear from the Democrat candidates what the people said. They don't have to speak. I'm not forcing you guys to get up there and speak. But anyway, but the people, I usually find out from observation, because I've been in town and yes, you know, observing everything. But the people who want it seem to gather in their little group and say, what the heck's wrong with the other side? And then the people that don't want it gather in their group and, you know, go, what the heck's wrong with that side? So, I mean, it's like the birds of a feather always flock together and always think that, you know, one side or the other side is right. And maybe this goes all the way up to Congress, you know, where everybody just takes sides. Okay,
with all
calm
due respect,
down.
is there a point here?
Move forward. Yeah,
He's got 30 seconds more.
Okay, moving forward.
Thank you. See you on the 13th.
Yeah, September the 13th, public meeting. I see no reason why the vote has to be done that night.
Okay.
If just for allowing the public to speak, because like Mr. Matthews said, you don't know what they're going to say. Somebody could say something and Mr. Matthews says, you're right. I think we actually should have 400 units. But anyway, but the public is going to speak, and I think you really should push it back to allow some deliberation. That would be most accommodating to the public. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And please answer the question.
Mayor. Okay, when they're finished.
Is anyone else in the public who would like to speak? Please step forward.
No, Bruce likes to go last.
You have a short statement?
I do, it's just a follow-up to Mr. Patterson,
Okay.
since he wrote us the letter and everything.
Okay.
And given what he's brought up the past couple meetings, maybe Mr. Renaud, you could elaborate on this, but I think the real key for the public here is that the redevelopment topic is a long process, as has been mentioned numerous times. It's been talked about for years. There was a transit village study. There have been public hearings by the planning board. They prepared a plan. They presented it to the public in April, 2 very well-attended meetings. Now we have the plan since June 3rd. We've had it to look at, to review, and it's on our agenda to potentially be adopted or not on September 13th. But that's not the end of the process. The process continues with an application, a potential application to the planning board for a site plan, and that's really the entity, in my understanding, that would handle the number of units. Then it would get bounced to the council to potentially negotiate a redevelopers agreement. So I know in speaking with Mr. Patterson and reading what he's written, he's asked, and I think it's a good question for the public's sake, where's the point of no return? And I really want to make it clear that September 13th is not necessarily the point of no return. If it's shot down, then the process stops. But if the process continues, there's still, as I mentioned with the site plan process and the redevelopment agreement, there's much more to this process still. So maybe I've said it well enough. Mr. Renaud, if you want to add, I think that's what Mr. Patterson often gets to at this point.
Mayor, I just want to clarify one thing if I could. Just in reference to the letter, Tony Morales and I we've talked to probably well over 100 residents at this point. It's kind of interesting. Very few, this Saturday I think was very representative. There was one man who was dead set against the project, one man who was dead set for it, didn't want to hear anything. very few people come into that category. Some people lean for, some people lean against. It would be hard, I'd have to sit down and talk to Tony a little bit about kind of where, you know, whether it's slightly against, slightly for. But it's interesting, the people who lean for and the people who lean against all cite the same concerns. So it's very interesting, and the thing that I found is that people are informed, they're very thoughtful on it, and they do have the same concerns. The other thing is, I have yet to meet one person, one single person, who has said, those buildings need to stay the way they are. We haven't, if there is one, I'll take Mr. Patterson's word, I have yet to meet one. So I think the opinion in the community is a little bit more complex, and feel free to talk to my running mate after the meeting to get his take on it. But I really do think that it's hard to convey a little bit.
Hopefully,
You know, kind of what it is. But it's interesting that the thing I've been struck by, besides people being thoughtful, is that the people for it and the people against it all have the same concerns.
hopefully I'm preparing a speech for that evening, and I can do some explaining a little better of the overall process, and we can move forward with the opinions of the people. Councilman Kukrow?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick, quick statement about that. I don't think it's so much that people are afraid of COA. That's a state mandate, obviously. I think it is basically the consensus that I have found, and as a resident, that it is, the majority are against the sheer size of it. There's nobody I know that is against this project whatsoever, not one. Councilman Matthew came across the one. I'm surprised, but all I really have to say about it is the sheer size of it. So COA doesn't come into it at all, since it's mandated by the state and the guidelines that they set forth, which we basically do not have any clue what our requirements are. There's a lawsuit going on right now about it. So like I said, there is a lot of aspects to this that people do not understand, and I really just beg to disagree that everybody in town is on board with it. If it was scaled down tremendously, you would have 100% people saying they're all for it, but there's nobody I know that is against this project, but just the sheer size, density, and the impact of changing the entire dynamic of the town, which we can never get back. That's all I have there.
As you know, Jill Hartman is in the audience this evening, our COA representative, and hopefully she'll enlighten us in the public sector and also to an executive session. So we'll move forward to the meeting.
Thank you very much.
I just have a final statement on this, Mayor. I know I may talk a lot, but sorry, I just have to. It's really something when you get a notes from the campaign trail on the dais, but I hate to say it, but you have to take that for what it is. And ultimately, we should all be listening to the residents, whether we're campaigning or not. And ultimately, even if you speak to everybody, they may change their mind over time, etc. We as elected officials get held accountable for our votes, and that's the bottom line. But to say, oh, well, this is the exact survey that's being taken, I almost am dumbfounded that that's what we're speaking about on the dais. But
Who said exact survey?
Okay,
I didn't say exact survey.
No, I
but,
didn't, so you misrepresented what I said yet again.
Okay, let's keep
Sir, I
it
think you
civil.
recognize Council President.
That's correct.
Excuse me, sir, I think you're...
The only conflict on the day.
Yeah, and that is correct that I was not finished. But just to
You're
tie that.
misrepresenting what I said, and that's why I had to interject.
Okay.
Let's,
Anybody could go back to the tape, but
Keep it civil.
I am, absolutely. Now that I guess my thought was diverged for a second, let me get back to it. Ultimately, though, I believe maybe everyone here, I'm not sure. I know I was there. I know a couple of other council people were there at the planning board meetings in April. I think that was very telling, the things that the residents had to say, and I just sat back and listened at those two meetings. I've been talking to people for months and years, honestly, about the same topic, and ultimately we as representatives just have to use our best judgment and be held accountable from that point on. But with any kind of, oh, this is what the public's saying, well, what's being said to the public first as well? You never know. That's all I have.
that will come to a head on September 13th. So we'll, at this point, we're going to move on to consent agenda. Does anyone want anything deleted from the consent agenda?
Yes, I do.
Say remove 16.
16,258.
Okay, remove 16-258.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt
Wait,
the...
who's seconding the removal? Second.
Someone second the removal, please?
I will.
Who's that, Jim?
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, we've never done it in the past, but I'll second it.
I don't know.
No, you don't know, I'm looking
Well, it's
at
not
it.
gonna be on there, how's that?
Yeah, if we all don't agree on it, it doesn't get put on there.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion to adopt as amended, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call, please, Ms. Arian.
Councilman Kukrow.
Abstain.
No, you're gonna say aye now.
I now. Okay, I now.
Councilman
Okay.
Martin.
All good.
Councilman Martin.
Yes.
Councilman Matthew.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Councilwoman Tedesco.
Aye.
And Council President Kukrow.
Aye.
Okay, so now we want to
Resolution
vote on 16-250,
258.
258.
Motion?
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 16-258.
Roll call, Ms. Arian.
There is an opportunity for discussion.
Any discussion at this point? Hearing none, roll call, please, Ms. Arian.
Councilman Kukrow.
Abstain, thank you.
Councilman Martin.
Aye.
Councilman Matthew.
Abstain.
Councilman Sarno.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Tedesco.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli. Council President Petrozelli.
Aye.
Mr. Renard?
Okay, we got.
What do we have for a
We
vote?
have three
Three,
abstain
three.
and 3 aye.
That passes.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, we have a resolutions deleted from the consent agenda.
No, I have none.
Thank you. Any new business as the council has this evening?
I guess this really isn't new business, but Tina, how did we make out with the two issues, the one, the on Hickory, one on Hickory and one on Third? How did we make out with the county?
The county did assist us with one of them, and the other one said that there was really nothing to be done with that issue. I don't want to go into detail on it, but yes, they did help us with the big one, taking it down for us, didn't happen yet. So we're done with that unless we get an emergency, which doesn't count as, we're done with trees for 2016.
All right, great, thank you.
Mayor, before you close the meeting, while you were, I just wanted, if I might make a remark.
Yes, sir.
While you were all having your early discussion of the ordinance on the 13th, I was looking at the ordinances, and I see that we actually do, and I sort of forgot, goes back about 16 years. We do have ordinances, A, to provide for special police officers, that's 34-3. And we also have an ordinance that provides for dispatchers that doesn't say that they have to be full-time or part-time.
Okay.
That's 34-37. So I'm not, I suggest that the committee take a look at those ordinances with the chief and then see if there's any need to change them.
Okay,
I
Councilman?
suspect that there may not.
We actually did look at them,
Oh.
and the chief did provide recommendations to further clarify the hiring the special officer. 34-3, what I would like to do is further clarify and add to that 34-37. I also believe that we would like to divulge into that. Those recommendations I do have, I can get them to you.
Okay, yeah,
And I want
send
you
them.
to take a look at them
Yep.
and see what we can do with that.
Okay.
I appreciate the,
Thanks.
Okay, council?
I'm good, thank you.
Very good. Mr. Renard, are you?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Councilwoman? Thank you. Okay, moving on, proclamations, POW MIA Remembrance Day, September 16, 2016. Moving on, payment of claims, Ms. Arian.
Be it resolved that the following claims as approved being the same on here, but order the payment properly signed and verified, and payment of payroll is as is hereby confirmed and ratified.
Do I have a motion to adopt payment of claims?
So move, Mayor.
Roll call, please, Ms. Arian.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Martin.
Yes.
Councilman Matthew.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Councilman Tedesco.
Aye.
And Council President Petrozelli.
Aye.
At this point in the meeting, I'd like to invite Jill Hartman to come forward, our representative from COA. She will address the mayor and council and the public session. Also, then right after that, we will be going into executive session for further information from the council. Sure.
So, hi, how are you? I haven't seen you all in quite some time.
Does this amplify or is this just recording?
It should amplify, tap on it. Yeah, she's got to get, you can take it out there and hold it.
Is there anything?
You can take it out of that thing and hold it. It doesn't work too good for this.
I think you're all aware, can you all hear me? I think you're all aware that in 2009, I believe, the Borough of Garwood prepared and submitted their third round plan to the Council on Affordable Housing. As a result of that, we had a submitted plan that outlined what we were proposing to do. Our prior round obligation, which was generally considered the second round obligation, was intact. And there was a new set of rules and regulations that basically allowed the municipalities to use economic development numbers, residential numbers, and come up with their own number for what affordable housing needed to be. And our number resulted in a very low number. And a plan was prepared. Then the municipalities were sued, among other people, by their groups, by the Fair Share Housing Center. The courts overturned those rules and regulations and said that, quite frankly, COA needed to come up with a set of rules and regulations that were consistent with the second round obligation. So for several years, the Council on Affordable Housing kind of bantered around and eventually came up with a set of rules and regulations that went to a vote, and it didn't pass. So the Supreme Court became involved, and all of our plans were in limbo. Most, I think there may be 2 or 3 plans throughout the state that had actually been approved prior to the court decision. So we're here now with a set of requirements. This municipality, along with maybe 200 other municipalities, went into a consortium to create their own plan through our own experts. And Mr. Renaud can correct me if I'm wrong, but consistently down the road and along the line, every case and everything that's come before the courts, they have not accepted the e-consult report. They've accepted the David Kinsey report from Fair Share Housing. There were, as components to the plan, originally there was a second round obligation which had been established between 1987 and 1999, and there was a gap period that would have been between 1999 and 2015, and then there was the third round obligation, which was 2015 to 2025. On July 22nd, the Appellate Division threw out the gap period requirement. So now there are 2 requirements. There's the prior round obligation for this municipality, which was 19 units, and that's established. And that's from 1987 to 1999. The third round obligation is between 2015 and 2025. The Kinsey report says that we have an obligation of 109 affordable units. That is up from 7, which is what our plan had originally looked at. I look at that because that's the worst case scenario, and that seems to be where the courts are going, and you want to make sure that you can at least look at what's available in your municipality, what you're proposing to develop or has been developed, and go from there. So one of the things that we have existing is the senior housing project, that was recently constructed.
Can I just ask a question, if I could, and just for myself?
Sure.
I'm an attorney, and COA makes my head hurt, and also just for the public, I know we use a lot of buzzwords and a lot of shorthand. Would you be able to describe to us in a sentence or 2, COA requirements are blank?
No, I
You
can't.
really didn't? Okay. No, and that's a fair answer.
Well, no, and I will explain why. There is no COA at the moment. The Council on Affordable Housing, actually, the governor tried to abolish. The the Council on Affordable Housing move it into the Department of Community Affairs as part of the Department of Community Affairs without being a special agency. The Supreme Court overturned that and said, no, you don't have the authority to do that as part of the Fair Housing Act. So there is COA, but there are no rules and regulations. We are having court cases that ostensibly every single case could create a different number. I don't think that's going to happen. Mr. Renaud would know a whole lot more than I do on that.
Number of creative need.
Prospective need, affordable housing.
A prospective
I'm sorry,
need.
prospective need of affordable housing.
Yeah.
New construction for the third round.
Okay, because it just, again, you're just
Right.
using a lot of the terms like e-consult and fair share, and this is like our battle of the experts. And just if I may, I'm barely keeping up, and I've spent a lot of time on this. I just think we're losing people.
What occurred, let me step back a bit. What happened was, the court said the ability of the municipalities to determine their number was not consistent with the rules and regulations of the first round and the second round. The third round numbers were significantly different and altered from the methodology used for the first and second round. In the first and second rounds, the Council on Affordable Housing said, this is your number. The third round, you got to figure it out based upon a whole lot of different requirements. So the court said, no, you have to go back to the old methodology. So the Council on Affordable Housing did come up, the worker bees came up with a new rules and regulations for the third round, and it came to a vote of the members of the council, and it did not pass. And that's when the courts got involved and said, enough. And the Supreme Court didn't give any municipality a number. They sent it back to regional courts to determine what the numbers would be. In the meantime, Fair Share Housing Center, which is a nonprofit for development organization, hired David Kinsey, who is a planner and a professor, who's a well-known planner, to create a plan based upon the old methodology of the second round of what the numbers would be, both regional requirements and municipal requirements, and rehabilitation numbers. The municipalities that went into what we consider a consortium said, these numbers are way too high. We would like to have our own expert. So they hired a group. Originally, they hired Professor Burchell from Rutgers, who was almost finished with his report, and then he had a stroke. He was not able to proceed. So then they hired a group called eConsult, and they prepared a report which is significantly different in numbers, based upon this generally the same methodology, but significantly different in numbers than the Fair Share Housing's report. So that's how that all. So the methodology is there, and what I've looked at is Fair Share Housing's, David Kinsey's report says basically that the third round requirements for Garwood are 27 rehabilitation units and 109 new construction units from 2015 to 2025. Excuse me. Does that clear it up a little bit?
It does.
I apologize. You get used to just working with the numbers.
Don't apologize, I just wanted to, yeah, because
So-
we speak in short, thank you. I appreciate that.
So that's where we're at.
Ms. Hartman, just to clarify further, you had mentioned 19 units before, so are we adding 109 and 19?
Yes, our total number from 1987 to 2025, new construction will be 128 units.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Was that including the village in Garwood, or that's?
No, that's just the number,
Just
that's not.
total number,
that-
not what we have already?
No.
Okay.
So now.
We have none already.
And we have none already. We have no plan that says, these are your units that we approve. So now what we do from this point is say, our number is 19 in the second round, 109 in the third round, and 27 rehabilitation units, which generally you would go toward the Union County Home Improvement Program, which I believe is the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Yes.
And they would, which is a typical thing. So you really don't have to worry about the 27 affordable units. You need to enter into an agreement with that. You have to deal with 128 units, and you have to look at to see if you have anything in the municipality that in fact can help begin to cover that. One of them is the senior citizen building. We're allowed to have 25% of our overall number to be senior, and if you have any group homes.
Ms. Hartman?
Yes.
Who would define rehabilitation units?
Rehabilitation is a lower moderate income family in this municipality that would own its home, that income qualifies, that would be able to have a new roof, maybe window replacements, boilers, furnaces, things that help bring their units back into compliance with both codes and general living. And generally, I know I do the Clifton Housing Improvement Program, and that's a loan for 6 years, and then it becomes a grant. So I don't know exactly how Union County works, but that's typically that, and it's typically up to $10,000 or $15,000.
All these things are based on statistical models which are far beyond the ken of all of us, quite frankly.
Yes.
For example, the rehabilitation share is based upon theoretically that there are X number of people statewide who are living in, who would qualify as low or very low or low and moderate income families who are living in dwelling units that are substandard either because they don't have adequate kitchen facilities or adequate bathroom facilities or adequate bedrooms or some other thing that makes them substandard, and then theoretically through this statistical analysis, that number gets, I don't want to use the word filtered because that's something else in affordable housing, but for your purposes, it gets filtered down to the municipalities in terms of regional need and then spread among the municipalities. So that number is a theoretical number of theoretical families who reside in Garwood and theoretically reside in substandard housing, which needs rehabilitation.
So what is our responsibility right now?
Your
In
response,
terms of what?
The number, we're all trying to follow the number, right?
Fulfilling the, yeah.
in terms of your responsibility, is to rehab over the next 10 years 27 existing homes within the municipality that can qualify as low and moderate income and need rehabilitation, and to construct 128 affordable units.
By
2025.
Okay.
And Ms. Hartman, you mentioned the senior housing, since we already have that built. What number can we take off of the 128?
29.
29. So we really are at 99.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So let me temper those numbers somewhat by saying that that number has not yet been fixed because we haven't yet in Union County had a case go to trial. I agree that there is an excellent chance that whichever town winds up trying the case first, that there is a fair chance that the number is going to be fairly close to the Kinsey number. On the rehabilitation share, generally, both Fair Share Housing and the courts have found that if the municipality enters into an agreement, which we do year after year, so it's not really an issue, I think, with the county for, in other words, as part of our community development program, we enter into an agreement with the county that has this rehabilitation program, and we will satisfy our rehabilitation share by entering into this agreement again with the county. Although they will require, as a settlement, in all probability, that the borough enter into or adopt a resolution agreeing to bond for any shortfall in the county's program. As a practical matter, that usually doesn't result in having to bond, but it's probably going to be a requirement if there is to be a settlement. And then with respect to the prospective need, the obligation is to provide a realistic potential for the development of those, whatever that number of units is that's eventually determined. One provides a municipality provides a reasonable development potential by adopting ordinances that would allow that development to take place. So the borough's obligation is not necessarily to construct or even to encourage anyone to construct, but to provide for the realistic development potential of the construction of those units. And it would be, again, we've already burned a year of our 10 years, so we've got 9 years to go. So that the provision of those opportunities is put in that 9-year timeframe.
I'm just hearing two things I don't understand. So the number has been fixed or the number is
No,
not
the
fixed?
number hasn't, what I said, and maybe I wasn't quite clear, and again, I apologize. I don't know what the number is, so I took the worst-case scenario that you would have, which would be the higher number that the Kinsey report has established, that you have a benchmark to at least start to work off of, otherwise, we have no number. So.
And then the periods you mentioned?
The periods are, the second round, which was 1987 to 1999, that's fixed. That's a second round obligation that was established by the Council on Affordable Housing back in 1987 and was given to the borough.
And then the gap period, the
There
appellate
is no
division.
more gap period. On July 22nd, the court eliminated the gap.
But the gap period is after 1999.
The third round now, then you go from the second round, or what they consider the prior round obligation.
Okay, so we have a second round obligation.
Of 19 units.
Of 19 units. We then have that appellate division decision, which said the gap period is gone.
No, so now we have a third round obligation that prospective, that's from 2015 to 2025.
And that's the 109.
And that's the 109.
Thank you. The worst
Kinsey's
and worst
number,
case. Worst case.
That's the
Kinsey's
Kinsey
number, when their opinion included the gap period, was 371. So it's been reduced from 371 to 109.
Now, will that court case be appealed?
Yes, but probably not. What's going to happen with it? Fair Share has filed a motion for leave to appeal with the Supreme Court. The gap was originally denied. In other words, originally, the court in Ocean County had ruled that the gap period was part of the prospective need. That was appealed to the appellate division. The appellate division, in a long, lengthy, rambling, and somewhat confusing opinion, declared that the gap period, that there is no gap period of prospective need. In other words, since you're talking about prospective need is prospective. So you can't go backwards to find something prospective. However, they kind of muddied the waters a little bit by talking about the fact that there was still a present, somehow the gap period was going to be figured into present need, which nobody, to the best of my knowledge, has any idea what they had in mind with respect to that. But so the 109 is is the Kinsey number with no gap period. In other words, it's 2015 to 2025.
And I know, Mr. Renaud, that we had discussed this previously. I just wanted to bring it up for the rest of the council, for the public. Some people are saying we should wait until the Supreme Court decides on this, but the decision can only get worse for us.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't really finish Councilman Sarno's question. It really answers yours to some extent, which is, so Fair Share filed a motion for leave to appeal with the Supreme Court. Motions to leave to appeal are not often granted. Usually, I shouldn't even say usually, frequently the Supreme Court says, you know what, sort it all out and then come back and see us at the end, which is what they did with all the other decisions. So I don't know whether the Supreme Court is going to take it now. If the Supreme Court doesn't take it now, the case goes back from the appellate division to Ocean County. Then they then have their trial. If Fair Share wants, after it's over with, even if it wins all the other aspects of the trial, they can still appeal the gap period decision, which would then go back to the appellate division that already ruled on it, and then it would eventually go back to the Supreme Court. So, I mean, it could be a long period of time before the Supreme Court eventually decides on the gap period, or they may decide it now. And as Jim said, we're on the good side of the gap period decision, so, yes, it could only, that particular aspect could only get worse.
Be the same or worse.
Mr. Renat, I have a follow-up question to something you said before. You said we just have to reasonably provide for realistic development potential through ordinances, et cetera. So, basically, right now, September 13th, we're looking at a redevelopment plan ordinance. So is that helping us reasonably provide for it? Or because it's not a set in stone number, we say, well, forget affordable housing, we're just going to ignore it?
No, that plan is the redevelopment plan, if it's adopted, becomes the zoning ordinance for that location. So that's how you satisfy your obligation, by adopting zoning ordinances which provide a realistic development potential for affordable housing. Did I answer that?
You did. Thank you. And essentially, Ms. Hartman, I'm sure you would probably agree, but we can't ignore affordable housing just because we don't have an exact number.
I don't think that would be ever wise, not in this day and age.
Right, like we know it's going to be something, we may not know that 99 is the real number, but we know it's going to be something in that vicinity. Thanks to the gap period being eliminated, luckily we're not looking at 3 times that amount, almost 4 times the amount, but we are looking at something along those lines. We're not looking at 10.
No, you're looking at something in the high, maybe not 109, total maybe 99, maybe 85, but you're definitely looking at something thereabouts, or especially since the gap period has gone and you've lost 300 and some odd units.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
So basically, it boils down to, we just have to supply the opportunity for people to be able to have low-income housing.
Yes.
You don't actually have to build it.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so that's it. And also, as far as COA goes, they're going to come out with a new number every 10 years, am I correct?
Yes.
So every 10, so we will never, ever be done with it.
Correct.
So basically, no matter what we build now, everybody, because I spoke to them, so basically, they were very clear when I said, okay, we met our obligation, we're done. She says, oh, no.
No, it's
Every 10 years, COA's going to come out with more ways to basically, I hate to say it, shake down the towns to basically, it's insanity.
Well, I think what's going to happen, it certainly is not in a town, in a municipality like this, which has a lot of redevelopment potential at some point. I think what happens in your municipality, at some point, there isn't anything else you can do. You can just, there's a point where the numbers may decrease. There's a point where you can put an overlay zone on a single-family residential zone, but it's not going to be redeveloped because it's filled with houses.
Right.
I mean, there is a point at it'll be all redevelopment as opposed to municipalities that have a significant amount of open land, vacant land.
Right, which bar with this, which bar with
No,
this
you
not?
don't have it.
We don't have it,
And
so
you're a small community as well.
we're very tiny,
And you're
so.
a community more than a large municipality.
Well, that's the whole thing, so we have very few places in order to do this type of development. So basically, you're talking about,
But that's also why your number for the second round is 19.
and rightfully so,
I'm not disagreeing with that, that's what I'm saying, so.
but 90 seems high. 90 seems high.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think you need to be proactive, if you can be, because of the numbers that are coming out.
And can I just ask Ms. Hartman, when you came up with the fact that this is the likely number to come in, were you using the Union County settlements as an indication?
No, I was using the new numbers that came out of the McKinsey report after July 22nd, which eliminated the gap period.
Okay, now, these settlements, because they're municipalities, they have to be public, so do they give us an indication though?
I'm unaware of any of the settlements, so I don't know what's settled, and I'm sure, that's another aspect of this whole
I know
process.
I asked this question before, but I'm not really sure, like, does that kind of give you an indication of which way the wind is blowing?
Yes, the problem is with the settlement, some of this I'm going to discuss with you in closed session, but the problem with settlements, because it's litigation, The problem with doing it based on an analysis of settlements is that most of the settlements that have been reached, and I have settled for other municipalities, I shouldn't say other municipalities, for another municipality, is that those settlements took place before the gap period decision. Even the Union County cases that were settled before the gap period decision. And so those are higher numbers than you would want at this point in time to settle for. And the problem is that because of the fact that I think Fair Share is hell-bent on appealing, I don't know if they're going to be settling for numbers, in other words, for comparable numbers. Like if they were willing to settle at, let's say, 70 or 80 or 90% of the Kinsey number when it included the gap period, I don't know that they're going to be willing to settle for say 60, 70, 80% of the no gap period number. I don't know. I don't know. One of the problems today is that the two guys that are the main litigators for Fair Share Housing are both on vacation. But I know they are because I've had cases with them, and one. The other problem is that because they have 300 and something cases that have been filed by different municipalities, and there were 3 lawyers in the office, they're kind of busy. So it's hard to, sometimes it's hard to get a feel on where you're going.
All right, so can we move this along a little bit and get to our executive, and barrage with information?
Are we settled in now as far as our questions?
I got tons, but I guess I'll wait.
Okay. Ms. Hartman, are you done with this portion of your
Yes.
presentation? At this time, I'll tell the audience once again, we're going to go into executive session. That executive session will be held in this room. And also, too, there'll be no decisions made at this executive session. It's just informational.
Right. And I just say, because I know I'm always asked this, there won't be any decisions. We'll come back into open session simply for the purpose of closing the meeting. There won't be any formal action, and we'll probably be, I'm going to estimate a half an hour or so, but it could be longer. So basically what I'm suggesting to you is if I were you, I wouldn't wait. That's entirely up to you.
Council, I've asked